The deep hum of the USS Challenger's engines filled the command deck as Commander Ethan Gray studied the strange signal readings on the main screen. His face, lined with 15 years of space service, showed little emotion, but his eyes betrayed his curiosity. "How much longer until we reach the coordinates?" Ethan asked, his voice steady despite the tension in the room. Lieutenant Paul Johnson glanced up from the pilot controls. 2 hours, Commander. Whatever's out there, it's sitting right at the edge of our solar system." Ethan nodded and turned to the slender woman hunched over a complex array of instruments. "Dr. Martinez, any new information on the signal?" "Olivia." Martinez pushed her glasses up and shook her head. "Nothing concrete. It defies all normal classification. It's not a distress call, not a warning beacon. Honestly, I've never seen anything like it." The United Earth Space Authority had detected the signal 3 days ago. Within hours, the Challenger and its specialized crew were dispatched to investigate. Strange signals weren't uncommon in space, but this one pulsed with a pattern that suggested intelligence. And it was coming from a region where nothing should exist. "Chief Murphy, how are our systems holding up?" Ethan called to the back of the bridge. Alan Murphy, the ship's engineer, was older than most of the crew, with thick arms and hands stained permanently with engine grease. "All green, Commander. I've boosted the shields as you requested, though I still think it's overkill for a simple investigation." "Better safe than sorry," Ethan replied. His last mission had taught him that lesson the hard way. 3 crew members lost because they weren't prepared for the unexpected. Dr. Samantha Brooks, the ship's xenobiologist, entered the bridge with a tablet in hand. "Commander, I've been analyzing the signal's pattern against known biological rhythms. There's something almost organic about it." The next 2 hours passed with minimal conversation. Each crew member was lost in their own thoughts about what they might find. The Challenger slowed as it approached the coordinates. "We're here," Paul announced, his hands dancing across the controls, bringing us to full stop. For a moment there was nothing. Just the empty blackness of space at the fringes of their solar system. Then Olivia gasped. It's phasing. In and out of our reality," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Slowly, like a mirage taking solid form, a ship appeared before them. It was unlike any vessel humans had ever built or encountered. Its hull seemed to shimmer between solid metal and translucent energy. There were no visible engines, no weapon ports, no windows, just a smooth, curved shape that somehow felt both ancient and impossibly advanced. "Size comparison puts it at roughly twice the length of the Challenger," Paul reported. "No signs of active propulsion or life support systems, yet it's maintaining perfect position." Ethan leaned forward in his chair. "Scan it." Alan frowned at his console. "That's odd. Our scans are being absorbed. No reflection, no data returning. It's like the hull is eating our sensor beams." "Try all frequencies," Ethan ordered. Minutes passed as the crew attempted every scanning method available to modern science. Nothing worked. "Sir," Olivia said finally, "I'm detecting something even stranger. The space inside that ship appears to be larger than its exterior dimensions would allow." Samantha looked up sharply. "That's impossible." "So is a ship appearing out of nowhere," Ethan replied. He made his decision. "Prep a boarding team. Dr. Martinez, Dr. Brooks, you're with me. Lieutenant Johnson will pilot the shuttle. Chief Murphy, you'll monitor from here." Alan protested immediately. "Commander, with all due respect, we have no idea what that thing is. Protocol says unknown phenomena should be investigated thoroughly," Ethan cut him off. "We'll maintain constant communication and follow all safety procedures." 30 minutes later, their shuttle approached the mysterious vessel. Up close, its hull seemed to ripple like water, though it maintained a solid appearance. No visible airlock or entry point, Paul noted as he circled the shuttle around the strange ship. Olivia pointed toward the center of the vessel. "There. The hull pattern is different in that section." As Paul guided the shuttle closer to the spot Olivia indicated, the alien ship's hull seemed to respond. A section melted away, revealing a dark opening. "It's inviting us in." Samantha whispered. Ethan's hand hovered over his sidearm. Or it's a trap. Stay alert. We go in, take readings, and get out. No unnecessary risks. The shuttle slipped through the opening, entering a vast chamber that should have been impossible given the ship's external size. The walls glowed with faint blue light, illuminating what appeared to be a docking area. As the shuttle touched down, the opening behind them sealed shut. Chief Murphy, do you copy? Ethan spoke into his comm unit. There was only static in response. Comms are being blocked, Paul said, checking the shuttle's systems. But the air outside is breathable. Temperature normal. No detectable radiation or toxins. Ethan weighed his options. We suit up anyway. Full protective gear. The team exited the shuttle in their environmental suits, moving cautiously through the cavernous space. The interior of the ship was minimalist, with smooth surfaces that seemed to shift colors slightly as they passed. These readings don't make sense, Olivia said, staring at her handheld scanner. According to this, parts of this ship exist in multiple quantum states simultaneously. They found what appeared to be a control room. A central platform held what looked like control panels, though there were no buttons or screens, just smooth surfaces with faint patterns. It's beautiful, Samantha said, moving closer to examine the panels. The design suggests it was built for beings with similar physical proportions to humans. Paul reached out toward one of the surfaces. I wonder if... Don't touch anything, Ethan warned, but it was too late. As Paul's fingers made contact with the panel, the entire ship hummed to life. Lights brightened throughout the control room, and the panel beneath Paul's hand glowed warm blue. I didn't mean to, Paul started, pulling his hand back, but the ship was already responding. The floor beneath them vibrated gently, and through a large viewport that had suddenly appeared, they could see the stars beginning to shift position. We're moving, Olivia said, her voice rising with alarm. The ship is accelerating. Ethan turned toward the way they had come. Back to the shuttle now. They ran, but as they reached the docking area, they found their shuttle encased in a transparent field of energy. I can't get through, Paul said, pushing against the field. It's like solid glass. Through the shuttle's viewport, they could see the Challenger growing smaller as the mysterious ship picked up speed. The acceleration is impossible, Olivia said, checking her instruments. We should be crushed by the G-forces, but we can't even feel them. The ship continued to accelerate until the Challenger was just a tiny dot, and then nothing at all. Stars streaked past the viewport as the vessel carried them away at speeds no human ship could match. Trapped aboard a vessel that defied the laws of physics, Ethan and his team could only watch as it took them toward an unknown destination, far beyond the safety of Earth's solar system. Ethan paced the control room, trying to hide his worry from the others. 3 days had passed since the alien ship had taken them beyond Earth's solar system. 3 days of trying to understand a vessel that broke every law of physics they knew. Any progress on the controls? He asked, stopping beside Paul, who sat cross-legged before one of the glowing panels. Paul shook his head. I can make some systems respond, but nothing that would let us turn this thing around. He pressed his palm against the smooth surface, causing ripples of light to spread outward. It's like the ship knows what I want to do, but chooses whether to obey. Olivia worked nearby, her equipment spread out in a careful arrangement. Commander, you should see this, she called, not looking up from her scanner. Ethan moved to her side. What is it? According to my readings, we're moving at speeds that should be impossible. She showed him the display. We should be dead from acceleration forces alone, yet we feel nothing. And that's not all. She pointed to another section of data. The ship is generating massive amounts of energy, but I can't find anything that looks like a power source. Samantha entered the control room, carrying samples she had collected from different parts of the ship. The material this vessel is made from doesn't match any known element or compound. It seems to change its molecular structure depending on what you're using to examine it. Ethan rubbed his forehead. So we're trapped on a ship that ignores the laws of physics, traveling to who knows where, with no way to contact Earth or get home. Actually about contacting Earth, Paul said, looking up with a hint of excitement. I think I found something like a communication system. I haven't figured out how to use it yet, but it's definitely designed to send and receive signals. Before Ethan could respond, the ship made a subtle shift. The lights dimmed briefly, then returned to normal. We've changed course, Paul said, checking the viewport. The stars had shifted position. Maybe we've reached our destination? Samantha suggested. Olivia shook her head. No, we're still moving incredibly fast, just in a different direction now. Ethan made a decision. We need to explore more of this ship. There has to be something that can tell us who built it and why it responded to us. The crew had already mapped out several chambers near the control room, but much of the vessel remained unexplored. They split into pairs, Ethan with Olivia, Paul with Samantha, and set out to investigate deeper into the ship. Ethan and Olivia followed a corridor that seemed to bend in ways that should have brought them back to where they started, yet somehow led to new areas instead. This doesn't make sense, Olivia said, checking her mapping device. According to this, we're walking through spaces that should be outside the ship's hull. They entered a large chamber with walls covered in symbols that glowed faintly. In the center stood what looked like a three-dimensional model of a galaxy. It's a star map, Ethan realized, approaching it carefully. But I don't recognize any of these star patterns. Olivia studied the symbols on the walls. These could be some kind of language. If we could translate it. Their comm units crackled. Commander, Paul's voice came through with excitement. We found something. It looks like a database of some kind. There's an interface that responds to touch just like the control panels. Where are you? Ethan asked. 2 levels down from the control room. There's a chamber filled with what look like data crystals. Samantha touched one and it projected images into the air. We're on our way, Ethan replied. Don't touch anything else until we get there. As they navigated back through the impossible corridors, Olivia stopped suddenly. Commander, look at this. She pointed to a section of wall that seemed different from the rest. While most of the ship's interior was smooth and uniform, this panel had a texture that resembled rippling water. It reminds me of how the hull looked when it opened to let our shuttle in, she said. Ethan approached it cautiously. Could it be another entrance? When he got within a few feet, the surface began to shift and flow. It parted like a curtain, revealing a small chamber beyond. Inside was a single object, a cube about the size of a human hand, made of the same shifting material as the ship itself. What do you think it is? Ethan asked, not daring to touch it. Olivia scanned it with her device. It's giving off quantum signatures unlike anything I've ever seen. It might be some kind of key or data storage device. After some discussion, they decided to take the cube with them. Ethan used a sample container from Olivia's kit to collect it without direct contact. They found Paul and Samantha in the database chamber, surrounded by floating images of stars, planets, and what appeared to be ship designs. We've been trying to make sense of it, Samantha explained. The interface seems to respond to our thoughts somewhat, but it's like trying to read a book in a language you barely understand. Ethan showed them the cube. Maybe this can help us. When he brought the cube near the central console, the floating images changed. New symbols appeared, along with an image of a humanoid species. They were tall and slender with elongated heads and 4 arms. Could these be the builders? Paul wondered. The images shifted again, showing the aliens constructing ships similar to the one they were on. Then it showed these ships traveling between stars in ways that made no sense, passing through solid objects, existing in multiple places at once, folding space around them. They mastered some kind of technology that let them manipulate reality itself, Olivia said, her voice filled with awe. No wonder this ship breaks all the rules of physics as we understand them. The display changed once more, showing the aliens encountering another species. This new species had dark, angular bodies and moved with predatory grace. The images showed conflict, the dark species attacking the builders, destroying their ships and worlds. A war, Ethan said quietly. They were at war with someone. The final images were harder to interpret. They showed the builders doing something to their ships, then the ships being scattered across the galaxy. Then the builders themselves seemed to fade away, becoming energy rather than matter. I think they were defeated, Samantha said. Or maybe they evolved beyond physical form. Either way, they left their ships behind. But why would the ship respond to us? Paul asked. We're nothing like those four-armed aliens. Before anyone could answer, the ship shuddered. The lights flickered and a low hum filled the air. We're slowing down, Olivia said, checking her scanner. And there's something else. We're receiving a signal. Not from Earth, from somewhere ahead of us. They rushed back to the control room. Through the viewport, they could see a distant star growing larger. It's bringing us to a solar system, Paul said, studying the controls. Can you tell which one? Ethan asked. Paul shook his head. No star charts match this region. We're far beyond mapped space. As they watched, planets came into view orbiting the star. The ship adjusted its course toward one of them, a blue-green world not unlike Earth. I think we're about to find out why this ship chose us, Ethan said, his eyes fixed on the approaching planet. And who else might be waiting for it? The alien ship slowed as it approached the blue-green planet. Through the viewport, the crew could see continents and oceans, clouds swirling in the atmosphere. It looked remarkably like Earth. Breathable atmosphere, Samantha reported, checking her scanner. Gravity similar to Earth's. Temperature readings suggest it's habitable. Ethan studied the planet with concern. The question is, who lives there? And are they friendly? As if in answer, several small ships appeared on the viewport, rising from the planet's surface. Their design was angular and dark, resembling the aggressive species they had seen in the database. They're approaching fast, Paul said, his hands hovering uselessly over the control panel. I can't make our ship change course. Olivia moved to his side. Maybe it doesn't want to. Remember, this ship brought us here for a reason. The smaller ships surrounded them, keeping their distance but clearly escorting them toward the planet. Their hulls were black with red markings, sharp edges making them look like weapons even at rest. They haven't fired on us, Ethan noted. That's something. A new symbol appeared on the control panel, pulsing softly. Paul hesitated, then placed his hand over it. A voice filled the control room, speaking in a harsh language of clicks and growls. I can't understand it, Paul said. The ship responded without their input. A soft hum filled the room and the alien voice spoke again. This time they could understand the words, though the voice still sounded unnatural. Unknown vessel, you have entered Vorden space. You will be escorted to landing coordinates. Any deviation will result in immediate destruction. Ethan looked at his crew. Looks like we don't have a choice, but stay alert. We don't know what these Vorden want. The ship continued its descent, following the escort through the atmosphere. Below, they could see a vast city spread across a coastal region. Unlike human cities with their variety of shapes and sizes, this one was constructed with perfect symmetry, every building an identical height and width. Their ship landed in a clearing at the edge of the city. The escort vessels positioned themselves in a circle around them. Now what? Samantha asked. Now we wait, Ethan replied. Let them make the first move. They didn't wait long. The hull of their ship opened just as it had when they first boarded, creating a doorway to the outside. Through it, they could see a group of aliens approaching. The Vorden were tall, at least 7 feet in height, with dark gray skin that seemed to absorb light. Their bodies were lean and powerful, with 4 arms like the builders they had seen in the database, but their heads were different, more angular, with no visible eyes, just smooth surfaces where eyes should be. They look like predators. Paul whispered. Ethan straightened his uniform. We represent Earth. We came here by accident, but we come in peace. He stepped toward the opening, gesturing for the others to follow. The air outside was thin but breathable, with a faint metallic smell. The temperature was cool, like an autumn day on Earth. The Vorden leader stepped forward. When it spoke, they could understand its words, though its mouth didn't move in a way that matched the sounds. You pilot an Axiom vessel, it said. Explain how humans came to possess forbidden technology. Ethan kept his voice calm. We found this ship at the edge of our solar system. It responded to our presence and brought us here. We don't control it. The Vordan leader made a sound that might have been laughter. Lies. The Axiom ships bond only with those who share their maker's corruption. You will come with us for examination. More Vordan appeared, surrounding the crew. Each carried what looked like a weapon, though of a design they had never seen before. We'll cooperate, Ethan said, signaling his crew to remain calm. But we've done nothing wrong. We're explorers, not invaders. The Vordan led them through the city. The buildings were made of a dark material that seemed to absorb sound, creating an eerie silence. There were more Vordan in the streets, moving with purpose, none of them stopping to look at the human visitors. They were brought to a large structure in the center of the city. Inside, the walls were covered with displays showing stars, planets, and what appeared to be military movements. A command center, Olivia whispered to Ethan. The Vordan leader gestured toward a large table. Sit. As they sat, restraints emerged from the chairs, securing their arms and legs. Ethan struggled briefly, then stopped when he saw the weapons, pointed at them. What is this about? He demanded. Why are you treating us like criminals? Another Vordan entered, this one wearing markings that suggested higher rank. It studied them for a moment, then spoke. I am High Commander Vex of the Vordan Unity. You have brought an Axiom reality bender into our territory. This is a violation of the highest order. We told you. We didn't choose to come here, Ethan insisted. The ship brought us. Vex made a dismissive gesture. The Axiom corruption spreads through beings like you. Your species has been interesting to us. We have been watching Earth for some time. Olivia leaned forward against her restraints. You know about Earth? Have you been there? We have collected samples, Vex replied. Your kind shows unusual potential for interfacing with Axiom technology. This is why you must be studied, then eliminated. Ethan felt cold fear spread through him. Samples? What does that mean? Vex touched a control on the table. A wall panel slid open, revealing a chamber beyond. Inside were dozens of stasis pods, each containing a human body. The colony ships, Samantha gasped. The ones that disappeared. Ethan recognized the uniforms on some of the bodies. 3 Earth colony ships had vanished over the past 5 years while attempting to establish outposts in distant star systems. Over 1,000 people lost, presumed destroyed by accidents or unknown hazards of deep space. You took them, he said, anger replacing fear. Why? The Axiom nearly destroyed the universe with their reality manipulation, Vex explained. Before we defeated them, they seeded many worlds with their technology. Any species that shows aptitude for using it must be contained. Your kind shows concerning levels of compatibility. Paul struggled against his restraints. So you've been kidnapping humans to experiment on them? To see if we could use this Axiom technology? And now you have your answer, Vex said. The ship brought you here, it chose you. This confirms our fears about your species. Olivia had been quiet, her mind racing. The ship, she said suddenly. It knew about the Vordan. It brought us here deliberately to find these people. She looked at Vex. What exactly are you afraid humans will do with Axiom technology? Vex moved closer to her. The Axiom believed reality should be fluid, changeable. They sought to free all beings from the laws of physics, from the constraints of fixed truth. This is chaos. The Vordan believe in order, in the sanctity of unchanging natural law. So it's a philosophical disagreement, Ethan said. It is survival. Vex corrected. If humans master Axiom technology, you will become like them, reality benders who twist the universe to your will. This cannot be permitted. As Vex spoke, Ethan noticed something strange. The restraints on his wrists seemed to be weakening, becoming less solid. A glance at his crew showed the same thing happening to them. None of the Vordan appeared to notice. Then he understood. The ship was still connected to them somehow. It was changing the reality of their restraints. What will happen to us? Ethan asked, trying to keep Vex talking while the restraints continued to weaken. You will be examined. Your brains studied to understand your connection to the Axiom vessel. Then you will join the others in stasis until we determine how best to neutralize your entire species. The restraints were now barely solid. Ethan caught Paul's eye, then Olivia's, giving them a subtle nod. I think, Ethan said carefully, that you've made a serious mistake. In one swift motion, he pulled his arms free and lunged forward. The others followed his lead, breaking free of their weakened restraints. Chaos erupted in the room as the Vorden raised their weapons. The Vorden weapons fired, but the energy beams bent around Ethan and his crew, striking the walls instead. Vex backed away, the smooth area where eyes should be somehow showing shock. Impossible, the Vorden commander hissed. The dampening field prevents axiom effects. Ethan didn't waste time trying to understand. Paul, find us a way out. Olivia, Samantha, free as many of our people as you can. Paul dashed to the door while the women ran toward the chamber with the stasis pods. The Vorden fired again, but their weapons seemed to malfunction, sparking and shutting down in their hands. This way, Paul called, finding an exit that led to a long corridor. Ethan joined Olivia and Samantha at the stasis pods. Can we release them? Samantha studied the control panel. I think so. The interface is similar to the ship's. She placed her hand on the panel and the pods began to open one by one. The humans inside were alive but weak, their muscles wasted from time in stasis. Many wore the uniforms of Earth's colony ships, the Endeavor, the Pioneer, and the New Horizon, we. Can't carry them all, Ethan said, counting at least 50 pods. A man in a faded captain's uniform staggered from his pod. Captain Aaron Wright, USS Pioneer, he said, his voice raspy from disuse. What's happening? Short version. We're escaping, Ethan replied. Can you help others who can walk? Wright nodded and began rousing his crew members. Within minutes, about 20 colonists were on their feet, helping others. Vorden reinforcements poured into the room carrying different weapons. Ethan expected to feel pain or death at any moment, but instead the room itself seemed to change. Walls that had been solid suddenly became transparent, then disappeared entirely, creating new exits. The ship, Olivia said, her eyes wide with understanding. It's manipulating reality around us, even from a distance. They fled through the new opening, leading the dazed colonists. Outside, the city was in chaos. Buildings shifted and changed. Streets rearranged themselves, creating a direct path back to where their ship waited. It's making a way for us, Paul said as they ran. Behind them, Vorden soldiers pursued, but found themselves trapped by walls that appeared from nowhere or separated by sudden chasms in the ground. None of the changes affected the humans. As they approached the landing area, they saw their ship, the Axiom vessel as the Vorden called it, surrounded by Vorden warships. But even as they watched, the enemy vessels began to malfunction, their engines shutting down, weapons systems failing. The Axiom ship's hull opened wider than before, creating a large entrance ramp. Inside, the interior had changed, expanded, to accommodate the rescued colonists. Everyone in, Ethan ordered, helping the weakest colonists aboard. Once all were inside, the hull sealed behind them. The control room had expanded, with new seats appearing for the additional people. What is this thing? Captain Wright asked, staring around in wonder. We're still figuring that out, Ethan replied, but right now it's our only way home. The ship lifted off without anyone touching the controls. Outside, Vorden vessels attempted to give chase, but their systems continued to fail in increasingly impossible ways. The Vorden were right about one thing, Olivia said, monitoring the ship's movement with her devices. This vessel is bending reality around it. It's rewriting the rules of what's possible. Paul studied the expanded control panels. There are new systems active now. I think the ship wants me to do something. One panel glowed brighter than the others. When Paul placed his hand on it, his eyes widened. I can feel it in my mind, he said quietly. It's showing me how to control it. His fingers moved across the panel, following patterns only he could see. Outside, space itself seemed to ripple. A bubble of distortion formed around the ship, and within that bubble, new stars appeared, stars that matched Earth's night sky. "It's creating a shortcut," Olivia said in amazement. "A direct path back to our solar system." Captain Wright approached Ethan. "Commander, my crew and I have been prisoners for nearly 2 years. The Vorden have been taking human ships whenever they venture too far from Earth. They're afraid of us, afraid of what we might become," Ethan corrected. "They think we have some special connection to this Axiom technology." "Based on what we've seen," Samantha added, "they might be right." As the ship accelerated through its self-made pathway, Olivia continued studying her readings. "The ship is doing something else," she reported. "It's sending out a signal much stronger than the one that led us to it in the first place." "Who's it calling?" Ethan asked. "I'm not sure, but the signal is directed towards several locations across the galaxy. Maybe other Axiom ships?" Captain Wright looked troubled. "If there are more ships like this and they all respond to humans the way this one has, then the Vorden have good reason to fear us," Ethan finished. Paul suddenly pulled his hand back from the control panel. "It's showing me something. The Axiom, the ones who built this ship, they weren't just advanced aliens. They evolved beyond physical form. They transcended." "Into what?" Samantha asked. "Into beings of pure thought and energy. But before they did, they left their ships behind, programmed to find species with the potential to follow their path." The ship shuddered slightly, and through the viewport they could see Earth's solar system appearing ahead. "We're almost home," Ethan said, relief evident in his voice. But their relief was short-lived. As they approached Earth's orbit, they detected multiple ships waiting for them. Vorden ships. "How did they get here before us?" Paul asked. Captain Wright's face darkened. "They've been watching Earth for years. They must have a base in our system." The Vorden ships moved to intercept, weapons ready. But as they closed in, the Axiom vessel began to change. Its hull shifted, growing extensions that resembled wings or fins. The control room expanded further and new panels activated around Paul. "It's evolving," Olivia whispered. "Adapting to the threat." Paul's hands moved faster across the controls, his eyes half closed in concentration. "I can feel what it wants to do," he said. "It's not just a ship. It's a key." "A key to what?" Ethan asked. "To unlocking human potential. To showing us what we can become." Paul looked up, his eyes now glowing with the same blue light as the ship's panels. "The Axiom picked humans because we can do what they did. Break free from the limitations of physical reality." Outside, the Vorden ships fired their weapons. The energy blasts approached the Axiom vessel, and then stopped, frozen in space. "It's pausing time around those weapons," Olivia said, checking her scanner. "That should be impossible." "I think," Paul said, his voice now resonating with an odd harmony, "we need to stop thinking about what's possible and impossible." The frozen weapon blasts began to move backward, returning to the Vorden ships that fired them. When they struck, the Vorden vessels didn't explode. They simply ceased to exist, as if erased from reality itself. "We need to get to Earth," Ethan said, trying to focus on their immediate goal despite the impossible things happening around them. "We need to warn them about the Vorden. And about what this ship can do," Samantha added. "What it means for humanity." Paul nodded, his hands still moving across the controls. "We're going home," he said. "But we're bringing something new with us. Something that will change everything." The Axiom ship accelerated toward Earth, leaving the remaining Vorden vessels behind. As it approached the blue planet, Ethan couldn't help but wonder if they were bringing salvation or destruction. The ship had saved them, protected them, but its power was beyond anything humans had ever controlled. "What happens when we land?" Captain Wright asked, speaking the question on everyone's mind. Ethan looked at Paul, whose eyes still glowed with the ship's light. "I don't know," he admitted. "But whatever comes next, humanity will never be the same." The Axiom ship descended through Earth's atmosphere, appearing over the North American continent. Below, people pointed up at the strange vessel with its flowing metallic surface that seemed both solid and liquid at the same time. Military jets scrambled to intercept, surrounding the ship as it slowed. Inside the control room, Ethan opened a communication channel to Earth. "This is Commander Ethan Gray of the USS Challenger research vessel. We are aboard an alien craft and returning, with survivors from the missing colony ships. We come in peace." There was a long pause before a response came through. "Commander Gray, this is Earth Space Defense. Your ship disappeared 3 weeks ago. We thought you were lost." "It's a long story," Ethan replied. "We need to land and speak with Earth leadership immediately. We have urgent information about a threat to humanity." The ship was directed to land at a remote military base in the Nevada desert. As it touched down, armed soldiers surrounded it, tanks and aircraft standing ready. "They're afraid of us," Samantha observed. "Can you blame them?" Captain Wright said. "We're arriving in a ship that looks like nothing humans have ever built." Paul still sat at the main control panel, the blue glow in his eyes now faded, but not completely gone. "The ship wants to show them it's not a threat," he said. He placed his hand on the panel one last time. The ship's hull shifted, becoming transparent. The soldiers outside could now see inside, could see the human faces looking back at them. "Smart move," Ethan said. "Let's go meet them." The hull opened, creating an exit ramp. Ethan led the way, his hands raised to show he was unarmed. Behind him came Olivia, Samantha, Paul, and the rescued colonists, many still weak from their time. In stasis. A general approached, flanked by soldiers with raised weapons. "Commander Gray, identify yourself and explain this quant situation." "General," Ethan said, recognizing General Frank Howard from Earth Space Defense. "My crew and I discovered this vessel at the edge of our solar system. It's called an axiom ship, built by an advanced species that evolved beyond physical form." "And it responded to you?" the general asked, eyeing the ship with suspicion. "Not just to us," Ethan explained. "To humans in general. It seems we have some natural ability to interface with their technology." General Howard looked skeptical. "And these people?" he asked, gesturing to the colonists. Captain Wright stepped forward. "Captain Aaron Wright, USS Pioneer colony ship. My vessel and 2 others were captured by an alien species called the Vorden. They've been taking human ships for years, experimenting on us." The general's expression grew grave. "You have evidence of this?" "More than evidence," Olivia said, holding up her scanner. "Data on both the Vorden and the Axiom, and a warning: the Vorden are already in our solar system. They see humanity as a threat because of our connection to Axiom technology." As they spoke, the ship began to change again. Its surface flowed and shifted, splitting into smaller segments that hovered in the air. Each piece was still connected to the others by streams of energy, creating a web-like structure. "What's it doing?" General Howard asked, his hand moving toward his sidearm. Paul stepped forward, his eyes now completely normal again. "It's reconfiguring itself. The ship isn't just a vessel. It's a tool designed to help species with potential evolve to the next level." "What next level?" the general demanded. "The ability to manipulate reality itself," Paul explained. "The Axiom believed that conscious minds should not be limited by physical laws. They created these ships to find and help species that could follow their path." The floating segments of the ship began to pulse with light, sending beams upward into the sky. Satellite imagery later showed that these beams extended beyond Earth's atmosphere, reaching out to distant points in space. "It's calling to other Axiom ships," Olivia realized. "There must be more of them scattered across the galaxy." General Howard looked alarmed. "You're telling me this thing is signaling others to come here? That sounds like an invasion." "Not an invasion," Ethan said firmly. "An invitation. The ship didn't bring us back to Earth by accident. It wants to offer this technology to all of humanity." As they watched, the ship's central section lowered to the ground and opened, revealing a chamber filled with glowing crystals similar to the database they had found. "What are those?" the general asked. "Knowledge," Samantha answered. "Everything the Axiom learned about manipulating reality. The science behind how this ship works. One of the scientists who had gathered at the landing site approached the crystals cautiously. The energy readings are off the charts, but they're stable. It's like nothing we've ever seen. In the days that followed, more scientists arrived to study the ship. They discovered that the crystals contained information that would advance human technology by centuries. New understanding of energy, matter, space, and time. The ship remained in its web-like configuration, continuing to send signals to the stars. A week after their return, Ethan, Paul, Olivia, and Samantha were called to a high-level meeting with world leaders. General Howard greeted them outside the conference room. The Security Council has been debating what to do, he told them. Some want to destroy the ship, fearing it will bring the Vorten down on us. Others see it as our best hope against them. Destroying it would be a mistake, Paul said. The Vorten already know we're here. The ship is offering us a way to defend ourselves. Inside the conference room, representatives from major nations sat around a large table. Screens showed the faces of leaders who couldn't attend in person. Commander Gray, the UN Secretary General, began. Your discovery has presented humanity with both an opportunity and a crisis. The technology in this Axiom vessel could solve many of Earth's problems: energy, food production, climate change, but it also makes us a target for these Vorten. With respect, Ethan replied, we became a target the moment we started exploring space. The Vorten have been watching us, taking our people. Now we have a chance to protect ourselves. Olivia stepped forward. The ship's technology doesn't just offer weapons. It offers a new way of thinking about reality itself. The Axiom evolved beyond physical form. They're offering us the chance to follow. And you think humanity is ready for that kind of power? A skeptical Russian representative asked. Ready or not, Paul said. It's already here, and more ships are coming. As if on cue, reports began coming in from observatories around the world. Strange objects were appearing at the edges of the solar system. Dozens of them, all with the same shifting metallic appearance as the first Axiom ship. The UN Security Council meeting erupted into chaos as the news spread. Ethan and his crew were rushed to a control center where they could watch the approaching ships. They're not heading toward Earth, a technician reported. They're forming a barrier of some kind at the edge of the system. Olivia studied the data. They're creating a defensive perimeter. They know the Vorten will attack in force now. Paul smiled slightly. The ships didn't come to invade. They came to protect us while we learn. Outside the military base, the first Axiom ship continued its transformation. Parts of it now extended high into the atmosphere, creating a network that scientists couldn't explain, but that somehow strengthened Earth's communications and defensive systems. As night fell, Ethan stood looking up at the transformed ship, its segments glowing against the dark sky. Olivia joined him, her scanner forgotten at her side. What do you think happens next? She asked quietly. Ethan watched as another piece of the ship reshaped itself, becoming something new and strange and beautiful. I think humanity just took its first step into a much larger universe, and nothing, not the Vorten, not the laws of physics, not even our own limitations, can stand in our way now. Above them, the ship continued to change, to evolve, to defy all logic, and around it, humanity began to change too.